So let's quickly jump on to how traditional data warehousing solutions are built around in the enterprise world. So traditional enterprise data warehousing is built on top of databases, relational databases, right? It is used to aggregate all the data from different sources like say CRM, ERP, or OLTP applications, or SCM, or any legacy platforms. So from all these data sources, the first step is to instrument all these data source and aggregate all this data source using some sort of ETL tool. So when I say ETL, the definition of ETL by intuitive, it is extract, transform, and load. The first step is to extract all this information from different sources, have different connectors, have different channels where you can extract all this information, and then do some sort of cleansing or do some sort of transformation. So you could do a lot of cleansing, you could do a lot of data transformation based on your requirement of what data you're looking in from these different data sources. So there could be a cleansing or a transformation step required after extracting the data. Once you extract and cleanse or transform the data, most of the time we do the loading of the data into a much more persistent storage where we can create business intelligence reports and run the business intelligence reports on top of that storage platform. So most of the time the storage of the extracted, transformed, or cleansed or loaded data, what we call it as the data warehouse. So this data warehouse can run simple ad hoc queries based on fixed schemas. So you cannot have flexible enough to load unstructured or unmapped data to a schema. So you need to have a schema in your data warehousing platform, and you can map that incoming extracted data, transformed and cleansed data into a schema which is already identified to store that information, right? So this is what most of the time it happens in a traditional data warehousing integration. So there could be multiple steps of ETL in between it actually goes and sits into the actual data warehouse or the actual data mart. So there are tools like what people used to use like Talon, Mule, Kettle, the traditional ETL tools which used to support components or programming model to do this kind of three aspects: extraction, transform, and load. So most of the time using these kind of tools has some sort of challenges. So the first thing is it is time consuming. The reason why it is time consuming is basically, say if you have one ETL job and you have to redo that for a different project, you have to redo that from the scratch most of the time. You cannot just say, okay, this is my data, start writing the business logic of it. You need to do a lot of boilerplate integration of connecting all these components or scripting all these components to extract, transform, and load. So there could be a lot of integration layers which are very tedious to code and which transforms the data from one layer to the other layer. And sometimes each layer might start stripping out or transforming the data into operational data store. Before it goes and sits into the operational data store, or sometimes we even call it as a data mart, on top of which we do the actual business intelligence querying. So a data mart is a small piece of database or small piece of business objects which are stored into a database, on top of which you can run ad hoc queries so that you can get business insights into it. So basically there are some commercial or conventional software or platforms or solution offerings like Teradata, Hexadata, and Netezza. So all of them offer the conventional way of handling the data warehousing. Sorry. So one thing I would like to bring it as early and as quickly as possible. So here we are not trying to make a recommendation to replace Teradata or Oracle or any netizzer kind of conventional or traditional platforms, but rather we're trying to understand when to use what. That is our objective, because both of them serve two different purposes. So we'll talk about what are those pros and cons in a while. Also, we'll see what is the best to choose when we have to use a different thing. Okay, so when it comes to